I'm Fred. This is Cooks Mountain Woodworks. I'm going to demonstrate how we start our process of building furniture from raw lumber. I've taken a piece of rough cut pine from our bandsaw mill. It straight off the mill, you can see it's not particularly flat, straight. Put a straight edge on it and you can see light there. So what we need to do is straighten this up before we can really do anything with it. And this machine's a joiner and it will make one flat surface or one straight edge, and I'm going to make a flat surface by running it with the joiner. I've marked the concave side of this board with some pink chalk. That will let me know that all the surfaces have been planed by the joiner. With rough sawn lumber, it's not near as important. With a piece that's already smooth, it makes it easier to see how the machine is going. So. This surface is straight and flat, and I can send it through the planer to make the other side parallel and flat. This is a 1948 model bell saw planer, 12-inch wide board it can handle, as thick as 6 inches. I've refurbished it. It's my go-to machine in the shop here for finish work. We also have a similar one out in the lumber shed that we typically run production units of cedar for our outdoor furniture through that one. This is 3 horsepower. At the same time, it's running off our solar energy system. I have a dust collection system that is also 3 horsepower that pulls out the majority of the dust and chips. I've got the piece of wood here that came off the joiner. I'm going to check its thickness. It's about 1 inch thick at its thickest point, so I've set the planer to plane to slightly less than that. Okay, this is a piece of pine from our sawmill. This is ponderosa pine that we've harvested off our own land through fire, and it'll probably end up being a piece of paneling or trim or a small project. The joiner and the planer have given us 2 perfectly parallel faces. However, we still have a very rough edge off the sawmill and an edge here that came off on a table saw but is not square. And what I need to do is square up at least one of these edges on the joiner. And typically, if there's a concave edge, I'll run that through the joiner. Both of these are pretty close, so one pass through will do it. The joiner, as we already know, will give us a flat surface. but it'll also, with the use of the fence, put the flat surface, true surface against the fence. Make sure the fence is at 90 degrees. That will then give us an edge right here that is truly 90 degrees. So that's where I'm going right now. That's the edge I just did, and it is now perfectly square, and I can use it on the table saw to rip this to a specific width with another true edge here. Here we have a 3 horsepower cabinet saw. A lot of people think a cabinet saw is called that because it's used to make cabinets, but it actually really relates to the construction of the machine. All the guts are mounted on a cabinet and then a table's attached to a top. It's a tilting arbor table saw. And in our shop it's used primarily for rips. It can be used for all kinds of cuts. We have jigs that allow us to cut mortise and tenon joints by attaching the piece of wood to this and running it through the blade. Again, we use it primarily for ripping. This board here just came off. Fence adjusts for any width up to 52 inches. Again, we use it primarily as a rip saw. It does produce most of our mortise and tenon joinery on our Stickley frames and arts and crafts style furniture. Okay, this is a piece of ponderosa pine that we have processed through the joiner and the planer to give us 2 parallel faces, 1 square edge. We still have 1 rough edge here straight off the sawmill, but with our other 3 surfaces I can run it through the table saw. This board's about 4.5 inches wide right now. I'm going to rip it to 4 inches just to give me a true edge. It'll eventually get sized to a specific project. Table saw is good for angle cuts, rip cuts. Its primary use in this shop is as a rip saw. So I've set it for 4 inches, which will get rid of this rough edge and still leave me a nice sized board. What's called a piece of 4 square timber. All 4 corners are right angles, parallel faces, parallel edges. This can be used, as I said, we'll probably use it for a piece of tongue and groove paneling or possibly some trim. Okay, this is our Oneida Air Systems Cyclone Dust Collector in our solar powered Cooks Mountain Woodworks shop. This is the heart of keeping the place clean and efficient. This has a 3 horsepower motor that pulls through 6-inch ductwork, runs primarily under the floor, but we have a number of pieces that are mobile, so we hook up with some flex line. Each item has a blast gate, so I can shut it off or turn it on as need be to direct my airflow where I need it. Okay, I've got a rack of parts for our Adirondack chairs. These are parts that will be in the back of the chair. There's 3 different parts, and right now I'm going to sand some rough edges. These were cut on a bandsaw. It leaves a slightly rough cut, and I want to clean up the corners here so that there's no splinters or anything like that. Okay, getting ready to use this little drum sander to clean up this edge here. You probably see I'm wearing a little extra gear in this particular video, and that's because I'm working with some cedar that I have an allergy to. This is a powered air purifying respirator. It uses filter cartridges and a little fan, and when I turn this switch on, it sends air up through the hood and down through this visor. Now I also have dust collection right here. Okay, I've just finished dressing this top edge of this board. This is part of the back of our Adirondacks. What distinguishes our furniture from the cheap stuff you can buy in the Walmarts and whatever is we hand dress all this, no splinters, nice and smooth. The handwork leads to a nice product. This still has 2 more steps to go before it's ready to go onto our chairs. I'll run it through a drum sander to make sure the face is perfectly smooth, and then I'll hand dress with a small plane all the corners to make sure they're splinter free and good looking.